Hello, everyone. Welcome to Cracking Addiction. My name is Dr. Ferghal Armstrong, and we have with us Jesse Ball, a lived experience peer worker. Jesse, I thought today we'd talk about the attractiveness of recovery. I mean, you've got various ideas on that. How would you describe it, first of all?
Well, I think it's a good start to highlight that recovery for a lot of people who aren't quite there yet, like people who are still using drugs, can seem quite boring and dull.
Yeah.
It's not attractive for a lot of people who use it.
If you're going out partying on a Friday night, Saturday night, having a great time with your mates, and you suddenly think to yourself, "Well, I can't use drugs, can't go out anymore." What do you do?
Yeah, well, it's a good point. And I think another point is a lot of people don't even know what recovery is until they get into it. It's
Yeah.
this idea of, I think recovery and just being sober and white knuckling it are two completely different things that often get confused.
So talk to us about that. What's white knuckling, first of all?
So white knuckling is a term they use mostly for people that drink, but it can be applied for drugs as well. Essentially, it is using willpower to refrain from using drugs or alcohol.
Yeah.
And for people like me who became very addicted and dependent on drugs, trying to use willpower is very exhausting and it never works, no matter how hard you try. Like I could stop sometimes for a week or a month, but I could never stay stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really uncomfortable as well using your willpower. I wouldn't recommend it.
So that's white knuckling.
Yeah.
I was going to say, what's recovery?
Yeah.
I mean, if you could answer that in 1 second or 1 minute.
Yeah, well, it's a big topic. But for me, a big part of recovery is connecting with my authentic self. And
Yeah.
that's a journey. It's not a linear journey, but
Yeah.
and it encompasses and entails so much. It's hard to quite, even before this conversation, I was thinking about the different aspects of recovery and attractiveness. And it's hard to formulate in one sentence because it's so vast and it's so different for each individual. But I think what is in common, it involves connecting with our authentic selves.
Right. Right. So there's a lot to explore in there. So I still don't think we've chewed the fat enough over this idea of the attractiveness of recovery, because when I think about the 12-step program, I mean, the first step is we admit to ourselves and to others that we are powerless over alcohol or a substance, and that our lives have become unmanageable. So my gut feeling is that for somebody to actually recognize recovery as attractive, they've really got to go through the misery of embracing that first step. They've got to realize that there's literally no other option. They've hit their rock bottom. Were they to not do this, they would. Well, the 12-step book says that their lives depend on it. Is my question then is the fear factor of really knowing that you've hit rock bottom part of making recovery attractive, or is it something else? I mean, you say connection with the authentic self. To what extent is rock bottom similar or the same as the authentic self?
Yeah. For me, it was a bit of a process. Like I had to hit rock bottom first. And when I hit rock bottom,
Mm.
I wasn't really thinking about recovery being this attractive thing. It wasn't until after I hit rock bottom, accepted that I had no way out, and then started to meet people that had found a way out. And
Yeah.
the people I met had attractive qualities, qualities like patience, calmness, wisdom, had integrity. And they're things that I wanted and I recognized I could only get if I wasn't using drugs. There were qualities I could only start to build in recovery. And that's when it became an attractive thing. But
Mm.
when I first, rehab was a part of my journey. When I first came to the realization that I couldn't successfully use drugs anymore, I was pretty devastated about it, to be honest. Like this idea of recovery being attractive wasn't there. It's something I had to work on
So why were you devastated?
because I really enjoyed using drugs, for a long time.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
speak about this inner conflict quite a lot. On one hand, I enjoyed using drugs. On the other hand, I recognized they were slowly destroying my life.
Yeah. Right. And so this internal dialogue, this battle that you had, how did it? What was the event or the situation that made your authentic voice win the battle?
We spoke about this briefly on a previous episode. There was, I was ready. There was a component I was ready, and I had the support I needed. So
Right.
those two elements were in
You
the
were
mix.
ready and you had external support. Yeah.
Yeah, but I think there's a lot more to it than that.
So what else is there?
I think, for me, it was inspiration, being inspired by other people, especially guys my age who I could kind of look up to and see myself in their shoes in a few years' time. Maybe
Hmm.
that they look quite cool, they were well spoken, they were speaking highly of recovery and speaking about how great it felt to be honest and had some money in the bank. Maybe they had a relationship that I'd like, or they had the confidence that I'd like. Again, for me, it came back to seeing those qualities in other people, seeing what was possible in recovery from other people. And that made it appealing for me. And for a long time, it wasn't appealing. I didn't know that recovery could be fun. And I didn't know that stopping the use of drugs could actually be a really enjoyable process. And for me, it was hard, but the whole way through my recovery journey has been fun. It's been exciting. I'm constantly trying new things. Yeah, I love it. But I can see for a lot of people who might still be using, like I was, it can seem really daunting at first. And this idea of recovery being fun can seem quite alien.
So what fun things have you done
A lot
since
of
you
fun things.
since you hit rock bottom?
The most recent one was I went for did a charity run for 24 hours around an athletics track. For me, that's my idea of fun. It's hard, but it's epic.
Yeah.
It's the kind of thing. Like I remember being on a bus going to work when I was working in construction. I was absolutely miserable. I was always broke, which I remember quite vividly. And I remember listening to this podcast of this guy who was running 100-mile races. And I remember thinking, that's just ridiculous. I don't think I'll ever do that, but how awesome would it be if I could one day?
Yeah.
And for me, I think these seeds were planted throughout my addiction that life I could be bigger than this. I could not that I could be bigger, but life could be exciting and full of epic and fun and adventure. So for me, that's in the form of ultra running, which is anything over your traditional marathon distance, which is 42 Ks. So I do quite lots
Yeah.
of runs, which are 100 Ks plus. I love
Yeah.
hiking, um, do quite a bit of hiking, going away camping, trying new things. I've tried things from walking into a salsa class and feeling like an absolute sore thumb, Tried kickboxing. I got sick of being kicked in the head. I've tried singing lessons and I freaked out after one session and never went back. I've tried all these things that I would never try when I was using drugs. So
Right.
my world's gotten a lot bigger and a lot more exciting in recovery, and it's just constantly, saying yes when there's a new opportunity and pushing myself outside of my comfort zone.
Right. So you've done all of this exciting stuff, and you fair play to you. You are an inspiration, and you are an ultra marathon runner now. And I've only known you as an inspiration. But here's a question, right? So what do you get up to on a Friday and Saturday night?
Not much. I love it. Nah, that's my first reaction, which is probably how I think other people might view me who are still using. But when I really
Yeah.
think about it, Friday night I go to my recovery meeting, which I absolutely love. I walk in
Yeah.
there and everyone knows my name, and I know most of the people there. Just have
Yeah.
beautiful relationships with those people, which is based
Yeah.
on nothing but unconditional love for each other. Which is great. Then we go out for dinner, and then Saturday nights I usually that's my time. I'm usually in bed by about 9:30. But
Well,
I
you
love
see,
it. It's a time to relax and wind down and reflect for me. I love having that space. When I was using, it was just go go go. But I actually
yeah.
have that time to myself on a Saturday night where I can journal, I can think about what I've been up to for the week. That's priceless.
So you've been able to convert this quest for pleasure, hedonism, this quest for hedonism that
Mm.
most young people are subject to on a Friday and Saturday night. You've been able to convert that into really a quest for inner peace, haven't you?
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah. I mean, I can remember being a young man thinking, oh, Friday night, time to go out, have a few jars, go partying, and the same on Saturday night. And now I just want to go to bed early. But I'm old. This is what I'm trying to say. I'm old. I have no choice in the matter. You, however, have embraced this and you found it richly rewarding. So how do we communicate that to someone who's still questing for hedonism?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's cool to look back to it. It's not until someone brings that to my attention I realize that's what I've done. Like, the hedonism to looking for peace. And I think first
Yeah,
reflecting on it, acknowledging that, like, going out, for me, I love nightclubs. I've DJ'd for years in the city, and music festivals, and acknowledging, for me, like, those things are really stimulating and they're a lot of fun, which
yeah,
there's nothing wrong with that, I guess, in itself.
yeah,
But for me, I realized it wasn't sustainable. I think for a long time, I recognized it wasn't sustainable, but I just turned a blind eye to it. I kept doing it. I wasn't able to think of the consequences. Maybe I didn't want to. But I think that was the first part, recognizing that, yeah, these things are fun, but in recovery, I've found things that are better and not only sustainable, but deeply, like, way more fulfilling.
yeah,
And it's been a process that's been layered in over time. It's
yeah, yeah. I mean, you've said something that triggers something, a comment in me that what I see in people who are in recovery is that they become very careful about their self care and they will take the time out of their week. They will prioritize sleep. They will prioritize diet. They will prioritize exercise. In your case, it's really prioritized. But people in recovery need or they demonstrate this total commitment to a whole lifestyle approach to health. So it's not just, oh, I don't do drugs, but I actually look after my body. I do the 10,000K oil change, and I just don't see that in people who are questing hedonism or, for that matter, questing oblivion. So you look after yourself, and that's an effort. It's not easy to do that all the time, is it?
not, but I really enjoy the process. I think just
Yeah,
having the freedom to look after myself is such a gift. For a long time, I
yeah,
wanted to look after myself. Like, I was trying
mm,
to stop using drugs from the age of 18. It took me 7 years
mm,
to finally stop. And
yeah,
the anguish and the feeling completely powerless over constant self abuse and not being able to stop. I think when
mm,
I finally could stop, and I've stayed stopped for about almost 4 years now. Like, every day, it's just a gift to be able to look after myself. And
mm,
yeah, it's a big part of what I do at the moment. I'm only working like about 30 hours a week, and I'm studying as well, but I enjoy having that day off. It's not like I'm sitting on my ass watching TV. I'm doing things which are good for me, my meditation, my yoga, my ice baths, going for a walk
mm,
down the park. Because I know, like, last year, I tried to work 70-hour weeks, and I ended up just not well at all. I got really sick really quickly. Like, fortunately, I
yeah,
didn't use drugs, but I was acting out on some other behaviors. So for me, it was quite clear, using that example from last year, that self care, it's not just a luxury, it's almost a necessity for
yeah. It is,
myself
isn't it?
as someone in
Yeah.
recovery. Yeah.
So not only has recovery got to be attractive, it's also got to incorporate a significant amount of self care. But let's go back to this concept of attractiveness. So you're telling me that your life now is much more fun than the life you had when you were questing hedonism.
Way more fun, way more fulfilling is probably the best way to look at it.
Yeah, it's the difference between fun and fulfillment, isn't it? Or or,
100%.
or, or hedonism and contentment.
Yeah. So if I look
Yeah.
at, like, terms of, you have like a stimulation marker throughout the course of your life.
Mm,
Those years I was using drugs, I've hit peaks like chemically, dopamine, serotonin, hit those peaks, which I'm never going to hit again. And a big part
Mm,
of my first year of recovery was accepting that
mm,
although I might not hit these peaks of what seems like happiness or enjoyment, I can find things which are much more sustainable and more deeply fulfilling. And I get to share with other people. I think that's a big one for me. Like now when I feel peaceful, or I feel like I went on this yoga teaching course a couple of months
mm.
ago, I went up to Byron Bay for
Yeah.
a week. And just by day 3 or 4, after eating pure vegan food, drinking heaps of water, no phones, I just felt like just pure love and contentment. And I got to share
Mm,
that with 14 other lovely people, all from around the world, who are also on this yoga retreat. And that's a
mm,
different kind of high. It's a different kind of fun to what I got off drugs. Like, sure, drugs were
mm.
very stimulating and had some pretty incredible experiences on drugs as well, but
Yeah.
they pale in comparison to the fact that I can enjoy my experiences with other people sober and actually remember those experiences, and I can still reflect on those experiences and really um, enjoy them. And I
Yeah.
guess I can do that with drugs too, but it's just a different kind of experience.
And it's sustainable.
Yeah, sustainable. I can do it
Yeah.
every day, and it makes me
And it's not going to
healthier.
kill you.
Not yeah, I'm more
Yeah.
unhealthy. Yeah.
Yeah. Another concept that I like to think about in recovery is this idea of connecting with one's life purpose. I mean, you used this phrase connecting with your authentic self. I I bet you that we're going to agree that life's purpose and authenticity are really synonyms, that they're the same thing. What would you say to that?
Yeah, I'd have to agree.
Yeah.
There's this, I'm going to say idea, but it's not just an idea for me. It's something I've experienced. Being lost
Mm,
for the better half of 10 years, completely detached from myself, then finding myself again through a process of recovery is again deeply
mm,
fulfilling to go through that process. And it
mm.
gives me purpose every day, just to be a little bit better than I was yesterday. Um, like
Yeah.
when I got sober, it's almost like the slate was wiped, and I had a blank canvas. And I kind
Mm.
of went back to the start, and I could take the deliberate steps I wanted to recreate myself. And that process is really fulfilling.
Right. So, do you know what your life's purpose is? 4 years into recovery.
I believe my life's purpose is to keep pursuing this path of inner peace, because the more
Mm.
peaceful I am, the better I can show up for myself and others. So that's my
Mm-hmm.
first purpose, to look after myself so I can show up for others, which I
Mm-hmm.
guess that's my second purpose, to help others. And I like this idea, if you can't hurt anyone, no, sorry, if you can't be okay with yourself, at least don't hurt anyone else. But if you
Yeah.
can be
Yeah.
okay with yourself, which I've learned to be in recovery, now I can start helping others. So yeah, looking after myself and
Mm.
helping others. And I guess those two things, you could talk a lot
Yeah.
about those.
That's very interesting. I mean, looking after you, I'm interested in the way you said that, the order that you said that, looking after yourself and then helping others. And to
Mm,
me, that's a very healthy purpose. So effectively, what you're saying is your purpose in life is actually service, right?
mm,
But there are people that help others to the cost of their own core identity, or they put
mm,
themselves out. They're effectively martyrs, or
mm,
they're martyrs of servitude, and that's very unhealthy. And I spend some time telling people that you can only really give of your surplus, and it's a bit like the airlines. They all say you have to put your own oxygen mask on first before you help
mm,
someone else. And you've just said that. You said help, look after myself so I can look after others.
mm.
That's the right order.
I like this idea of filling up your own cup and then sharing with others from the overflow of that cup.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, yeah, yeah. So again, we're harkening back to the self-care concept, that the recovery is a journey of self-care so that you can then achieve your life's purpose. And it's attractive because you're following your life purpose.
Mm, absolutely. So yeah, it's fulfilling because I'm following my life's purpose, and
Mm,
also I just want to just quickly touch on again, there's been so many incredible experiences I've had in recovery. Like, it's so far vast, it's hard to even think of them, but there's just been so much, from the complexities of conversations I've had, meaningful conversations, to being inspired by people traveling, from extreme sports, from learning about relationships, to connecting with my family on a deeper level. Like, the list goes on and on and on. And it's something you only get to experience once you enter recovery, and having that courage to giving it a crack.
What do you say to someone who's questing oblivion, questing hedonism, and can't imagine anything worse than staying at home on a Saturday night journaling and meditating? What do you say to that kind of person to get them to consider the way that you're leading your life?
My first response was, I don't know if you can say much if they're not listening, but if I could speak to my younger self, I'd ask him, what are you actually getting from going out on a Friday and Saturday? Because initially I probably would have said fun, but I think there were deeper emotional states I was trying to obtain, like peace, love, acceptance.
Mm,
And then I'd ask them if they think they could access those things in other ways.
that's very profound. So the quest for hedonism really is a quest for peace and love and acceptance
Mm,
and safety and security. And yet you
yeah.
can get it far better in a recovery journey. Is that right?
Yeah, that was my experience. And it took a while to get to that realization that what I was looking for was peace and love and acceptance. For a long time, it was just, looking for fun. But I think as I
Yeah.
matured, I knew that, I wanted more besides, wrecking myself every weekend.
So recovery is simply a better way of achieving the same goals that hedonism is trying to achieve. Is that what you're saying? Peace and love.
Mm, yeah.
On that sweet note, Jesse, we're going to have to call it, but I really appreciate your wisdom and your expertise and your insights. But for now, thank you.
Thank you.
That's all for today, folks. My name is Dr. Ferghal Armstrong, and this has been Cracking Addiction.